Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. I'm your host, Catherine Tao, and today we have Francisco Rius, the head of data science and data engineering for Minecraft. And today we're speaking about the intersection between art and science. This is a very exciting topic and an exciting field to be in. So, welcome to the show, Francisco. I'm excited to hear more about your journey here.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And could you tell us more about your background and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. As Catherine mentioned, my name is Francisco Rius. I am the head of data science and data engineering at Minecraft. For context, for those of you who aren't super familiar with the video game space, Minecraft is the best-selling video game in the world. We produce a lot of data. We have over 130 million players engaging with us every single month, and we capture a lot of data on what players are doing in the video game. And my team is tasked with finding nuggets of information to improve the video game player experience. Minecraft is produced by Mojang Studios, and we are part of Microsoft Games, although we remain fairly independent from a creative standpoint. Before joining the Minecraft team, I was leading the analytics group for Electronic Arts Vancouver, which produces FIFA, NHL, UFC, and other games. Electronic Arts Vancouver is actually one of the biggest video game development studios in the world, and I started working at Electronic Arts around 2012, so I went through the entire journey. I started as a senior analyst doing a lot of forecasting work and move up the ranks all the way to building a team which didn't really exist, and to the analytics and data science team to do most of the work related to insights for some of those video games. So I have been in the data science and analytics space for almost 15 years now and seen everything, right? So I started, as I mentioned, as an analyst, move up into management, and now building teams and leading both the data engineering efforts and data science efforts.
Yeah, and that's super impressive. And that's such an exciting field to be in is the gaming industry. There's so many different things that you can do and so many problems to solve. And it's just very exciting to be in this sector. And how did you find your passion for art and science?
This is a very good question. I will caveat by suggesting that I'm not an expert, and there are many things about science that I do not know or understand. I do work and thrive in an environment where both art and science intersect, and I believe that video games take elements from both art and science. I think of both art and science as uniquely human activities. Both require a great deal of creativity. It's really interesting to think of science as a creative space, but if you think about your day-to-day function as a data scientist, you have to be creative sometimes around the methodologies that you're going to use to try to attribute causality to certain events, or being creative in A/B testing or other spaces. In one space, in art, we express our desires to express our feelings and views about our existence. And in science, we express our desire to explain our existence and the universe around us. In the video game industry, at times, I believe we're underappreciated and overlooked in the strength on both the creative aspects of games and also the development of systems and the science behind engaging players in deep experiences. Over the past few years, I have learned that creating great gaming experiences requires a very strong balance between the creative aspects of a game, things like storylines, visuals, themes, the music we hear when we're playing a game, and also the systems and technologies and mechanisms and responses that are a little bit more technical in nature to ensure an exciting and fun video game experiences. I really see this as the intersection between art and science.
Yeah, and it definitely is. And you're also on the technical side of creating these games. And I'm curious, does the technical team also think of the creative side of all of these games and the things that all the characters are doing? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so that's what's super interesting about our space. We have to partner very closely with creative folks that have made a career of creating art, right? And this is digital art. So they're creating experiences, they're creating visuals. And where we use analytics is to really inform what players are more attracted to and what drives them to engage more. And so sometimes we have to speak both languages, right? The language of art and the language of science. And we have to approach it in a way that is not intimidating for one or the other function. We've always said in video games that the last mile for analytics in video games is usually the teams that create the gameplay experience in itself. So think about the worlds that are being created, the characters, all of the creative aspects of building a video game. Sometimes it's the last mile towards being able to create informed player experiences, whereas more established functions like business and marketing and finance, those are very straightforward applications for both analytics and data science. But on the creative aspects, really what we're looking for are nuggets of information that will enhance the player experience. So when a creative person, a game designer, is trying to decide whether to create a character that is going to have certain powers or superpowers in the game, and is trying to understand the balance of those superpowers so that when that character is engaging with others in a live environment with a lot of players in the game, that player maybe or that character is not overpowered. So we look for balance, for example. But we're also looking for things that players are motivated by. So things like cosmetics, right? So trying to understand what attires and what shirts and hoodies and things like that are attractive to players. Sometimes what's really interesting is that we see that player preferences in the virtual world, or what we now call the metaverse, are very different from the real world. So players will create online personas that are distinct from their real world personas. And us as data scientists are trying to understand all of these motivations that drive players to engage with video games all the time.
Yeah, super interesting. And it's important to also have to work with cross-functional teams, as you had mentioned, working closely with creative people and the executives to make it all happen. With all of this, could you also tell us about or describe a specific project that you worked on that involved data science and analytics in the video games that you've made?
Yes, absolutely. And I think in this one, we can talk a little bit about what's coming up for data science in the video game space as well. So some of my favorite projects involve the enablement of personalized player experiences using data science. In entertainment, we're all consumers of entertainment, especially during the COVID pandemic, I guess. Particularly in TV and music, you're used to seeing a curated experience that is in large part driven by algorithms. And you've talked about this in your previous podcasts and shows. Algorithms that provide recommendations on different types of content. So things like movies and types of music, and hey, your friends are listening to this, maybe you should listen to that. We in gaming adopt a lot of these best practices and adapt them with the objective of maximizing the amount of fun and engagement that players will have in video games. If you think about the concept of trying to measure fun as a data scientist, what does that mean, right? What is fun? So there's a primary research component there that is super interesting, and there's a behavioral element and also a psychographic element in there where we are trying to understand what players are experiencing from a feeling standpoint. That's a little bit different than just measuring raw engagement, which means basically just codifying the amount of times that players are engaging with a certain experience. In many games, you will also see recommendations on things like game modes, for example. Think about pathing of player experiences between creative and survival types of player experiences. We also make recommendations on game content types. So things like character customizations. We already talked about the attire and the customizations, the cosmetics that players will equip in their worlds. So we recommend some of that. We also recommend new worlds and new experiences. And I think over time, we're going to see deeper integration between algorithms and player experiences, to the extent where experiences can be very unique and responsive to player preferences and motivations. And all that said, I think this intersection of art and science, in this intersection specifically, there is going to be a strong need to balance out our algorithm capabilities with privacy and safety. So the world of data science in analytics in video games is actually quite deep and deals with very important forward-looking questions, such as how should we be using data when we have the capability to really personalize the player experiences and create very unique worlds and very unique experiences that are catered to each player.
Yeah, a great explanation. And my next question for you is just having to do with stakeholder partnerships, and how do you create valuable stakeholder partnerships in this data science sector, especially in this gaming field that you're in?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think there are a few different approaches to ensure that data science and analytics teams stay plugged in with key business and product teams. Historically, and I think a lot of your listeners will be able to relate to this, data science and analytics teams have played a strong decision support role where data is used to produce information that enables a decision. And sometimes you see data science teams that are in high demand in an organization where partnerships seem really, really strong. And sometimes you see data science teams that are a little siloed and may not always be in sync with what the business objectives really are, or the organization organizational objectives in general. And one way to create a strong bridge between data science and other organizational functions is really by developing subject matter expertise. And at Minecraft, we're strong proponents of what we call the inside out approach, which has become a little bit more popular in data science, where data science leaders partner directly with key functions, name, for example, marketing and finance, key functions in the organization, and they deliver recommendations on different opportunities that are identified through exploratory data science exercises. Subject matter expertise is really important, and it is the realization that data science is not just a single function. There's no uniform skill set for data scientists. Rather, data science can specialize in different areas. So a good example would be the range of guests that you've had here in the podcast, right? You've seen representation from multiple industries and multiple lenses that apply data science to different problems. The diversity in applications means that it is also important to realize that there will be diversity in the internal needs of an organization. So an organization would just have a lot of different functions, different needs, and different stakeholders. And in our case, we ensure that data scientists and analysts that are passionate about a topic, such as gameplay or marketing or finance, will be asked to lead data science projects that require expertise in that particular area. Those data scientists will partner directly with that stakeholder group. So what this does is that it leads to more productive conversations and a true partnership. Basically, we ask for a seat at the table, not just an outside-in approach, which basically would resemble something like a help desk support type of approach. And the flip side of an inside-out approach, as I mentioned, is an outside-in approach, which in this model, organization will submit asks directly to data science teams. And we push very, very hard for data science teams to be working together with decision makers. Over time, my hope is that this type of partnership will also result in more transparent and objective decision making. And I think it will also get data science closer to having a seat at the table when it comes to making decisions in organizations.
Yeah, definitely. And this is such an exciting field to work in, and everything that you had just mentioned with your career journey so far. And I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for those interested in working in a similar field as you, as the intersection of gaming and data science right now?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I think if people are listening to this podcast, I will say a massive thank you for being interested in the data science space and wanting to listen to someone who works in video games. That's very enriching, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us. Second is, data scientists a lot of times focus on technical skills. I would really encourage everyone to focus on what we call last mile skills. And I don't want to call them soft skills, because I think that really devalues the value, I guess, of being able to communicate findings, of being able to partner, of being able to develop and deliver on subject matter expertise in different fields outside of just being able to create very robust data sets and being able to run very cool clustering algorithms or running very robust statistical tests. I think there's a tendency sometimes to focus on important communication and subject matter expertise skills, because this is where the needs for data science are today. You will see if you go into an interview or if you're building a team, that there's going to be a very strong focus on quote unquote soft skills. And I will also mention again that we should be calling them last mile skills, because that's really a big part of how value add is driven in organizations. Also, I will say, and this is going to sound super cliche, but it's true, follow your passions. Find a product, a service that you really enjoy, and try to imagine how data science could be applied in that space. So in video games specifically, if you're passionate about a video game, you think about how data science can be applied to that video game. If you play Mario Bros, for example, or Mario Kart, think about what decisions have been made using data science. Everything from the menu flows to reduce friction, anything from the difficulty levels. I'll give you an example. I have a 4-year-old who loves to play on our Nintendo Switch, and obviously struggles quite a bit playing video games. And we realized that Mario Kart actually had a level that was like easier than easy. And I'm pretty sure that came from a recommendation, either an analyst or a UXR, a user experience researcher, that said, you know what, we need a level for this video game that will be an introduction for kids or for younger folks or somebody that just has no experience in video games. So find your passion, think about how data science can be applied, and also don't be shy and feel free to establish conversations. What's really cool about the video game industry is that a lot of the data scientists and folks in this space are also in social media and are also in LinkedIn, and you can have a conversation about your passion and have a little bit of a back and forth that way. So yeah, just a few thoughts on how to engage in this intersection of art and science.
Yeah, definitely great advice there. And I wanted to say thank you so much, Francisco, for joining us today on the Data Standard audio experience. I wanted to also ask you, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with you guys and hear your thoughts. If you just look for my name, Francisco Rius, Rius, you should be able to find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. And to our audience, for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. And once again, thank you so much, Francisco, for joining me today. It was so interesting to hear the intersection between data science and the gaming industry. And there's so many things that you really have to think about to create a game. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I really appreciate it.